Can you ever imagine losing your job? Chew on that thought a little. What about the house rent or the mortgage, the never-ending bills? But there's one generation that is built slightly differently. I'm talking about Gen Z. They also have a different side, a side which is open to explore the world. They want to take time to figure things out in their own sweet time. Job cuts are roiling firms from Wall Street to Silicon Valley. But some employees stuck in the storm are taking it easy. They are not scared of being laid off. The younger cohort is taking a more relaxed view of unemployment, of getting fired. It is seeing it as a way to escape from positions that they didn't like in the first place, escape from the rat race, the fight to the top. They are delighted to spend more time on hobbies, try a different career path, or patiently wait for better opportunities. Nearly 20% of Gen Z or Zoomers say that they would be happy if they were laid off today.
Gen Zers are being fired rapidly in the workforce, and it's only accelerating. Watch to the end of the video to fully understand the implications for not only Gen Z, but society going forward, as more of these young people are being shut out of society. Today's video comes from Stefan Mischuk, and his channel will be linked in the description, so you can go check him out and support him. And now let's just go ahead and jump right into the video.
Hey guys, how you doing? So I read an article in, I think it was Forbes or Fortune magazine. Let me just pop up what I got here. So here it is. Fortune says bosses are firing Gen Z grads just months after hiring them. Here's what they say needs to change. So there you go. That's the piece. You can go look it up on Fortune. There's something called the Googles. You can look that up. So I'm going to answer the question. I read the article, but I've been talking about this for years now. It comes down to professionalism. A lot of the Gen Z grads apparently don't know how to conduct themselves as professionals. So it becomes quasi-political, unfortunately. It becomes quasi-political. Ideas that I grew up with have become controversial. Like the idea of taking on a personal responsibility about being super helpful, as opposed to saying, how can people help me? You have the attitude instead of saying, how can I help people? How can I help this company be more successful? Because if the company is successful, they pay me. Another attitude change is thinking about how you view your rights vis-a-vis the business. Now, for me, I say, if the company wants to fire you, you get fired. And you want to quit the job, you should be able to quit, right? You shouldn't be locked in to a job. You shouldn't be forced to work anywhere. And on the flip side, you shouldn't feel that you should have the right to work for a particular company. You can make, now I'm not saying don't negotiate. You should negotiate a good salary and good terms. You should, 100%. But if you can't come to an agreement, you shouldn't feel entitled to it and through force of law, trying to force employers to give you something. No, just leave, go somewhere else. That's it. So you can go look up that article, and it's just, at the end of the day, it's about interpersonal skills will make you successful. Again, I've been talking about this for a long time now. It's about being professional, showing up on time, following the etiquette and the protocol. So for example, the last job I had working for somebody is 1,000 years ago. I was a bouncer in a nightclub. Bing, 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 bing. And in that nightclub, it was a high-end nightclub. And even though we got to scrap it out every so often, which broke up the monotony of working as a bouncer. Anyhow, we had to wear like a fancy suit. It was a fancy upscale club. So I had to wear like a suit. Did I have a tie? No, I had a dress shirt. Nice black shoes, no white socks, black socks. And I had to wear this because that was the dress code, right? I couldn't go in there with shorts and a t-shirt because it was an upscale club. That was fine. That was the job I was hired to do. So one of the things they cited in the article were these Gen Zers, I guess, these young grads come in, they assume that they can just dress wherever they want. They feel it's somehow imposing on them to have to follow a certain etiquette or protocol at the company. Dress code. It's silly. It's childish. Sorry. You go to the job, you apply for the job. This is the protocol. Here's the deal. Boom, boom, we want you to act this way. You got to show up at this time. You're writing code in this language or whatever it is. And you got to dress like this. And you got to go around, not call people names. It's just normal. So I'll leave you with this. It's incredibly empowering when you decide that you're not entitled.
Now, I'm going to share this with you. And some Gen Xers may disagree with me. Some older millennials may disagree with me. But when I went to college, when I started college back in those days, so over 20 years ago, I first set foot in college back in 2001. Over 20 years ago, guys. And back then, you were expected to carry yourself with a certain level of professionalism in certain programs and certain majors. For example, when I was a business major, we were expected to carry ourselves with a certain level of professionalism. It was very different. And one of the big points was there were also people who were older than us in the program. There were people who were in their 40s in the program who had been professionals. And you were expected to carry yourself a certain way. There was no being a complete moron. Of course, you're still young. The professors, at least some of them, will be fair to you and realize you're a young person. You've got these big wide eyes and everything. But there were certain levels of behavior, and they instilled this into you. And that was their job, was to prepare you to go out into the real world, and act like an adult. And I remember we used to do things like mock interviews, and we had someone come in at an employer, and she would go, "You got the job, okay?" And based on your behavior and assessing how you conduct yourself, guys, this is Gen Z are bringing their mommy and daddy to job interviews. Mommy and daddy. This is beyond unheard of. They cannot operate in the workforce. And it's beyond just not being able to operate. They cannot be trusted. Don't forget the Gen Zer. He was, I believe, 23 years old, around 23, 24, who sold national defense secrets to China for $3,000 a pop. 3,000 a pop, and he did it a bunch of times. Okay? And I mean, guys, what are you doing? You sold out your country multiple times. Just selling defense secrets once is treason. He did it multiple times and for only $3,000 each time. I said this before, and then I said, the moment I said, you know what, just forget it, just put him in prison. This lady pops up in the comments, and she's been commenting recently, and she goes, if you send them to prison, that's where they were just going in the first place. It's not gonna work. And it's something that I said. I just got frustrated, but I've said the same thing plenty of times. Where if you send them to prison, they're just gonna have a good time. Good, all right. They're gonna eat, sleep, fart, drink, get drunk, use, illicit substances, play video games. Well, play games, even if they can sneak stuff in. Play games, play with themselves, get tatted up, and then do it all again the next day. And what this lady, she pointed out in the comments on one of my posts where I talked about sending them to prison, is that they'll just go into prison and learn how to be better criminals. So they went in as petty criminals, and now they're going to come out as experienced. All right? They went in with their associates. They're going to come out with their PhD. Because they're going to be surrounded by real hardened criminals. And of course, they're going to learn from them. Oh man, you got arrested for just for stealing like this. Listen, man, what you got to do is this is how you do it. All right, I'm gonna teach you how to steal properly. You have to have a lookout. Okay, and this is where they put the cameras. Listen, by the time you leave here, listen, you are going to go out there. You're gonna make me proud. This is. They're gonna go in with their associates and being criminals, crooks, and they're gonna come out with their PhDs, standing tall and proud, wanting to put everything they learned to work. They're gonna be guys. I told you they will be a generation not just of people of sleeping and farting, but of thieves and squatters. They have no good future. When even the most educated Gen Zers, guys, it's the 27-year-olds who are being thrown out rapidly. Think about it carefully. It's the oldest of Gen Zers who are being thrown out of the workforce, not the youngest. The youngest of Gen Zers are still in high school. It's the oldest Gen Zers that are being thrown out of the workforce, not the younger ones. They haven't even gotten there yet. All right? It's the older ones. It's the ones that are pushing 30. Jesus, help us.
I know it seems like a dichotomy, but let me tell you, when you decide that you deserve what you put out, you get what you give, as I used to say, and you make an effort to make people's lives easier around you, it's going to pay off in spades, squared. It's unbelievable how useful that is. Just saying. But if you're a type of person who expects everybody to cater to you, and you feel like you're being aggrieved because they want you to show up at a particular time, or they want you to dress in a certain way, or they want you to code in a particular language, then you're going to have trouble. Because at the end of the day, when you're offering your services as a developer, any professional really, at the end of the day, what you're doing is you're there to make other people's lives easier. So besides the core function that you provide, there's all these other services, if you will, that you provide as well. One of my mentors told me he'd rather hire a average skilled individual who's easy to get along with, can communicate well. He'd rather have this person working for him than a genius who's a total jerk. Genius jerks don't get far in life. That's it. So you can go look at article up on Fortune. Boom. Bosses are firing Gen Z grads just months after hiring them. Here's what they need to change. So that's it. Now, if you disagree with that, that's fine. That means your role in life is to become an entrepreneur, the disagreeable person. That's it. That's another thing. If you're watching this, you're young. If you're going to go work for other companies, especially large corporate entities, interpersonal skills become supremely important. Supremely important. If you can't communicate and get along with people, you probably want to get into freelance and entrepreneurship. But even then, as a freelancer, at the end of the day, you got to sell. And people are going to deal with people who they like. That's it. So there you go. I hope that helps. If you're offended by this, give me 2 thumbs down. Not 1, but 2. Go 1, 2. If you think my hair is too long, give me 2 thumbs down. And that's about it. All right. By the way, I'm sympathetic, right? I haven't had a job working for somebody for decades. Well, since I was a bouncer. That was my last job. And a part of it is that I couldn't deal with the corporate culture. I'm an easygoing guy. I'm an easygoing nerd. And I had employees working for me and so forth. And nobody complained about me. No, for the most part. And yeah, but I can understand. You know, I get a taste of corporate culture with some of my clients once in a while through for my SaaS work. But yeah, you have to. Anyway, when you're going in there, go in there with the spirit of giving. Go in there with the expectation that you're there to help people, make their lives easier. Be professional. Show up on time. Don't smell. Take a shower. Cut your fingernails. You know, wear a nice shirt, nice clothes. This is going to help you in so many ways in your life, not just your professional life, personal life as well. You get what you give.
Now, let me make it very, very clear. Employers are taking terrible advantage of their employees today. And this is something that Gen Zers do realize. But at the same time, Gen Z, regardless if they're being paid fairly, these bad muffins just don't care. They'll still leave in the middle of the day. They don't really care about doing their job. It's all about the vibes and the experience. This is their mental state. They are not maturing well. I would go as far as saying that a person who is maybe 10 years old, I'm not even saying, guys, hands down, a Gen Xer at 10 years old would assimilate better into the workforce than a Gen Zer. A 10-year-old, a 10-year-old a Gen Xer, when they were 10 years old, would assimilate better into the workforce than a 27-year-old Gen Zer. They would be more responsible. They would learn how to do their job better. They would figure it out. Okay? And many of you know what? Many of you from the Gen X era and those that are older millennials know exactly what I'm talking about. Because the type of behavior the Gen Z is exhibiting, these people pushing 30 years old, it's just unbelievable. They're going to be a group of indentured servants if they continue on this path. This is something someone said in the comments, a Gen Xer said, when, in response to Gen Z talking a lot of flack about Gen X, he said that they are headed for indentured servitude status, because if you are not taking care of your business at this point in your life, you think that the society is going to take care of you, you're basically going to end up becoming not only a burden upon society, but when times become very tough, you're gonna suffer out there. And you will never be free, you will never have anything, you will forever be someone's, yeah. Someone will always have control over you. Your bread and butter will always have to come from someone, because you won't be able to provide it for yourself. It's no wonder that these people are being fired so rapidly, and their behaviors, their personalities are not very good. They're not very nice to work with. They're not very nice people.
Well, it is the debate pitting generation against generation. Ooh. Are Gen Z workers lazy, or are they simply changing the work culture?
Lazy. A new survey has found 60% of US bosses have fired their Gen Z workers, complaining that the younger generation wanted to leave early, start late, and expected to be paid a fortune. Sound familiar? Well, now bosses in Australia have the same problem. To hear out both sides of the debate, let's bring in Gen Z entrepreneur and chef Morgan Hipworth in Melbourne, and advertising executive Dee Madigan. Morning, guys. Nice to see you.
Good morning to you both.
Dee, Gen Z, what do you think?
Look, I've got 3 in my office and 3 Gen Zs, teenagers who all have jobs as well. They're not bad, they're different. That's all. Like, they're growing up in a world where they're probably not going to buy a house, ever going to be able to afford it. They've gone through COVID. I think they've just got a bigger sense of YOLO than we did. And that's not a bad thing. It's just different. So I think older bosses are like, no, I worked a horrible job all my life. You should too. And the kids are saying, no.
So it's just a different approach to life.
It is a different approach to life, and it's probably healthier, I think, as well.
Haven't they just grown up privileged?
No, they've grown up prioritising things like mental health and physical health. We were like, show up even if you're dying inside, and they're like, no.
Yeah. Well, somebody bucking that trend, is you, Morgan. At 23, you have 2 bakeries and a restaurant. I remember when you started, you were just a young tucker cooking donuts in the kitchen, the family kitchen. I mean, you have got a very strong work ethic.
Yeah, look, it's definitely come a long way, all those many years ago. But I think the work ethic comes back to finding a passion, and that's no different for any other Gen Z worker. And I think that's why, some of this trend may have happened. Maybe this work wasn't their passion, and it's not something that they really wanted to do for the rest of their life. And I think that's where it comes back to. If someone finds a job they love, they'll put in their all. And if it's something that they don't really love, I think my generation nowadays are just more inclined to be like, look, this isn't for me. I'm not going to give my all, and I'll find something else that is.
How many do you hire?
We've got about 40 staff now. Right now we've got about 10, I would say, is Gen Z. And as Dee said, that's a mix. We've got some absolutely amazing ones. And then of course there's some average ones, but that's no different than your older generation of workforce. For me, it's the ones that are passionate, especially in the baking industry, who are willing to put in the work and do the hard yards that will come out the other end of their, say, apprenticeship or something like that. Whereas the ones that, are a bit disinterested, you sort of give them that move on.
I mean, I think Morgan's right in the sense that it hasn't changed over the generations, has it? I mean, who doesn't prefer to go out on a Friday night and then rock up a bit hungover on a Saturday morning? It's happened to all of us, hasn't it?
night.
Okay, well, it was funny yesterday. My 14-year-old was going to work and she was looking a bit miserable. And I said, aren't you looking forward to work? And she looked at me and she goes, I'm on minimum wage and the customers yell at me, so no. And you go, you know what? Fair point. Fair point.
When I was growing up, to get a job working at McDonald's was boss. Like, and the Gen Z will go, well, it's a different generation. Guess what? We don't care. We really don't care. Because we could not even afford the things that Gen Z can afford now at a lot of these jobs. Some of these jobs like McDonald's are now paying $20 an hour, $22 an hour. And that was unimaginable to us. We were getting like $4.75 an hour, $5 an hour, and we were so grateful for it. I don't know what's wrong with these people. These people are out of their damn minds. They're like 17 years old, and they think that they should be making enough money to, a livable wage. They're crazy. There was no such thing. Now, don't get me wrong. The boomers stole our futures. They pillaged the economy. They're responsible for 99% of the problems that we have right now in the world. Not just in the US, not just financial. They are responsible for the vast majority of everything. But Gen Z is not making the situation any better. And Gen Z does not want to work. Gen Z only wants to they just want to chill. They want to chill. They want to take it easy. They want to relax. They want to play games. That's how they are. They don't want to put in an honest days of work. Honest day of work. They think that everything should be handed to them. And if they don't get what they want, well, then they're just going to be bad and nasty. And they'll steal from you. And when they get caught, they'll say someone else did it. That is the mental state of these truly bad muffins. No one really likes Gen Z. Gen Z doesn't even like Gen Z. And of course, you have the enablers, their parents, who are trying to, say, oh, it's not that. Come on. Look at this Gen Zer. He's trying to act like, oh, it's not. Guys, he has 30 employees. He said 10 of them are Gen Zers. But then you have to look at the statistics, because if 10 of them are Gen Zers, the rest of them are going to be millennials and Gen Xers. Maybe. Or maybe are millennials primarily. Probably millennials primarily. So why do you have so many millennials and so few Gen Xers? Because those are the kind of jobs that typically would be done by these individuals, right? And you have so few Gen Xers, and you said it's a mixed bag, but when you're looking at it like that, it's a large turnover rate. If you only have 10 of them, and 4 of them are being fired, that's almost half of all your Gen Zers. So you're losing almost half of all your Gen Zers. That's ridiculous. When you have to fire almost half, like companies right now, 6 out of 10 Gen Zers are being fired within the first couple of months or weeks of being hired. That should tell you just how bad the situation is with them. They're being thrown out of the workforce, and for a greater matter, they're being thrown out of society. Society doesn't want them. Now, guys, if you want to support this channel and everything I do, check out the Angry Guy Clubhouse. Get top expat and passport bro travel tips, digital nomad guides, passive income strategies, and hard-hitting manosphere content. Free subscribers get access to videos, podcasts, articles, and community chat. Plus, receive the passive income blueprint and digital nomad blueprint just for subscribing. Paid subscribers unlock exclusive guides like the How to Build an Online Business in 24 Hours ebook, wealth building blueprints, and crypto updates. Join us now. Click the link in the description.
Morgan, what advice would you have to any bosses out there? And it's really hurting my neck.
To look that way.
I'm so
He's
old.
not
You're not Gen Z. Turn your body. Turn the whole body. There we go.
Jen
There we
almost
go.
dead.
Oh, I just lost control. No, it's an older thing. Everyone at home knows
That
what I mean.
old? Come on.
What advice would you say to other bosses out there in handling this group?
Look, I think you do need to be a bit more flexible. You know, coming out of the years of COVID, things like working from home would have never have been thought to be possible. But, you know, you need to look after the amazing talent that makes a business and makes teamwork successful. So, you know, look after them if they need some things. And I think this goes for not just younger people, but also the older generation. You know, if it means working from home 1 or 2 days a week and you still get the result that works for both people, maybe that's for the best of the company and for the entire business.
Although, could I say to Gen Z on that, be careful.
Turn this way, Carl.
Yeah.
Turn your whole body.
You need
this
one of those
way.
recliners, those swivel chairs. I would say to Gen Z, though, be careful of the working from home thing, because what that means is you're not picking up the skills from older workers that's almost by osmosis when you're in the office.
True.
So if you're working from home, your skill set will just stay the same. And when those bosses are looking to promote someone, they're going to promote from people they see. So, yeah, careful about the working from home.
Really interesting.
Good
debate.
advice, yeah, from both of you. Really appreciate
Thank
it.
you, guys.
The bad muffins, just to be very clear, when you let them work by themselves, like even at the workforce, employers are saying that if they don't monitor Gen Z all day and stay on top of them all day at the office, they will get no work done. And now imagine allowing them to work at home. They will get no work done. In fact, what these little jerks are doing is they'll get hired by multiple companies and they just won't do any work. So they'll double dip or triple dip and they'll have multiple incomes coming in. And by the time the company finds out what they're doing, they've already collected a substantial income. It is a form of theft in that respect, because realistically, they're not going to ever really be serious about the job. They're not really going to ever apply themselves fully and build any equity with the company. They know what they're doing. They're just stacking up as much income as they possibly can before their departure. And a lot of what a lot of the Gen Zers are doing. They are not a good fit for the company. They never planned on being a good fit for the company because they're really not a good fit for any company. They stack multiple jobs up that are remote, and then they just hop between all of them. And usually when you're starting at a company in certain positions, there's a transitionary period before the work even ramps up. And with Gen Zers, they very well basically will do the bare minimum. And by the time they finally do get fired, granted, thank God companies are firing them within a couple of weeks or just several months after hiring them. But what they were doing is they would get these jobs and they'd be there for a year. And by the time the company would fire them, it doesn't matter because they still have another 2 jobs that they're still working remotely, and they're doing the same crap at those jobs. So they're collecting these checks, and then, they'll see how long it'll even go. And if they do get fired from the job, they show up just enough to say that they're actually active, but not enough to be valuable. And when the company finally fires them, they'll on top of collecting all of that income, they'll then turn around and file for unemployment. These are bad muffins. Bad muffins. And like I said, if you send them to prison, it doesn't work out because they're just going to have a good time and they'll come out of prison worse than when they went in. These are bad people, man. Bad people. They are the boomers reincarnated, just broke.
According to a new report, 6 in 10 employers say they've already fired some of their Gen Z hires that came on board earlier this year. Emma Withrow joining us now from the Fact Check team to discuss. So what did this report say about why these employees aren't working out? What's the problem?
I know there's a few different factors at play here. So the reasons that these bosses cited on this report from Intelligent.com said that Gen Z just has a lack of professionalism, with 46% pointing to just poor workplace behavior in general. Another 50% said new grads lack motivation and initiative. Communication skills also came up. You can see that graph on your screen. 39% of hiring managers said that the Gen Z hires struggled with just communicating in general as well.
A long list on that graph that you laid out there. These are pretty stark numbers also, Emma. Did any of these companies say they were going to rethink their approach maybe and just avoid recent grads altogether?
Quite a few, actually. 1 in 7 companies reported they might stop hiring recent graduates altogether next year just to avoid these issues. 9 in 10 hiring managers think that graduates should undergo some form of office etiquette training, and other companies have actually started to implement it. So I guess we'll see if that helps, but we've got more numbers later on how this is impacting the employment rate.
Yeah, interested in how that office etiquette training would pan out.
I know.
Emma, thank you. Emma will be back to break down what factors that would increase hiring managers' likelihood of hiring a recent college grad.
I remember a comment that a Gen Zer left in my comments a while ago saying how hard it is to get a job and that they're a decent person, but as soon as an employer sees their birth year, they immediately throw their resume away. Yeah. As soon as an employer sees that this is a recent college grad, or they just glance at the birth year, oh, they were born 1997 or any time after 1997, 97 and any time after the Gen Z years. And I'm sure they're avoiding people born 95 and 96 because those are Gen Zers as well. They're right on the cusp and they have that same terrible behavior. So as a result of that, they'll go as far as back as 92. They'll go as far back as 92 if they have to and say that, we want someone that's in their early 30s at the very least, just so that none of that stain of Gen Z doesn't carry over because the cuspers can be really bad as well. Guys, for many of these people, I've told you it's going to be very hard on society. As a person born in the Gen X era, as a Zennial, the ultimate truth, and I was saying this to a Gen Xer, another Gen Xer, that we're going to have to basically plan for no retirement. There's no retirement for us. We're going to have to work until the very end. Okay, we're going to have to stay in the best shape we possibly can throughout the entirety of our lives. Have enough money available so that we can hire help when needed and basically just keep on going until we pass away. Because there will be no one to take care of us. There will be Gen X, and even millennials are not going to have anyone to take care of them in old age. The Gen Z and Gen Alpha, they will be geriatric in 10 to 20 years. Many Gen Zers already look like they're in their 40s and even 50s. I am not exaggerating. They look very, very bad. Very, very bad. And it's an ongoing issue. They don't want anyone criticizing them and talking about it, but they look terrible. And, the only other generation that started aging as badly as Gen Z in their 20s and 30s were the boomers. Because the boomers were beginning to look pretty bad in their 20s and 30s. A lot of them looked much older than they should have in their 20s and 30s. And that's the wickedness upon them. What do you guys think regarding all of this? No one likes these people, and